When I look back at the men I chose to love, it's clear now. I wasn't choosing with my heart. I was choosing with my trauma. I was a dismissive, avoidant attachment style woman who had no clue of what a healthy, secured attachment style of loving was. Welcome, my loves, to the Hardened and Healed Podcast. Hey loves, let's just sit on down. This episode is going to be a little different from all the other previous episodes in the first season. We talk about healing. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is London. I am your healologist. Welcome to the Hardened and Healed Podcast. Thank you so much for allowing me into your home again for another episode. Please forgive me for going over or skipping the formal introductions. There will be no editing in this video. This video is just raw. It's just uncut. In fact, I am inserting this video instead of the one that I originally had intended on uploading. I am in a space right now, and I just kind of wanted to get myself while I'm in this space versus getting over to the heal part. I think that there's a lot of transparency in showing the before versus the after, right? We speak about being healed and what that looks like and how to get there, but we also need to talk about before the healing and when we're not there yet and whatever circumstance that is. And so I just had a breakthrough. But the breakthrough came after a breakdown. And the real transparency of the moment was I was hurt. For 2 days, I was hardened. And now I'm just ready to be healed. That's it. Those other spaces I can't live in. I want to be healed. I don't really have the words for what happened other than I was triggered. And what was so crazy is I had already identified with the trauma. And because I knew of the trauma, I knew the areas that I needed to tread lightly in, right? So I knew where I didn't need to provoke myself, if that makes sense. But because I was aware of the trauma, but maybe was avoiding the experiences that would cause the trigger, I got blindsided. I got blindsided, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. So the best way that I could put it, just to be able to help to identify with when I say know your trauma and then know your trigger, is that you have an immediate reaction. Immediate. It's like, people say a switch just went off. It's literally like that. That trigger is literally like a light switch, just flicking a light switch and it's on, right? It had been off or dim and somebody flipped that switch. And you almost have to have that experience in order to be able to identify it and acknowledge it when it's coming. If you don't know that somebody saying this or somebody doing that is going to trigger you, then you don't know to prepare for it, or you don't see it upon its arrival, right? You just see it when it's like smack dab in your face. You don't see it in the distance. You're not able to identify in conversations that this is getting ready to go left. And so that's what happened to me. I was in a conversation and I actually thought the conversation was fine. What's so crazy is It was a very lighthearted conversation to begin with. And I was discussing some other subjects, some other people in the conversation who, let's just say, they weren't best suited for me. And so for whatever reasons, or those particular reasons, I had parted ways. And in the midst of that conversation, what was said to me, I took as not degrading, but definitely insulting and very, what's the word that I want to say? I know it's demeaning. It almost, in that moment, it made me feel like you got the nerve to think that you should expect better. Like, you had this incident, you had that incident, you had this incident. And while those incidents don't define me, it defines the person. The person that I was speaking to had spoke to me as if to say, like, how could you expect much more? Why would you expect much more? How dare you expect much more after tolerating those situations and those experiences? And why it triggered me was not that the person expected me to accept less, but that they had never, their actions had said it. I've always seen it in their actions, but they would never actually say it, like they never owned it. And so in this particular conversation, the person said it, and through healing, right, I know not to just respond off of what I think I heard. If I feel like I'm being triggered, or maybe I've misunderstood what was said, or sometimes it's even really just me giving the benefit of the doubt. It's me saying, I know what this sounds like. I hope that's not what this is. So rather than just take it and run with it, I'm going to ask for clarity. I'm going to verify. And so I reiterated back what I heard. So not verbatim in the words that they said, but in what I heard. Because all too often people say stuff, and then when you take it at what they say, they go, but that's not what I meant. Yeah, but you said that. Yeah, but that's not what I meant. What I meant was. So because I'm usually that very black or very white type of person, like it's either go or stop, there's no like in between, I realized that part of my healing and being able to operate in an emotionally stable space is to make certain that I understand what is being said to me before I emotionally attach myself to the wrong concept, right? This is now giving grace and giving people the benefit of the doubt. So I had asked, so is what you're saying to me XYZ? And the person at that time said, no, that's not what I'm saying. And so then I asked differently, so are you saying this? And the person said, no, I'm not saying that either. And then I asked again in another way, and they said, no, I'm not saying that. And then it was almost like, you know what, just forget it. And I'm like, no, because I realized that you're saying it because it holds weight. It means something. And you were asking for a response because it initially came up like as a question. I don't know if it was a question that was expected to be answered, but it was just kind of, I wonder, and I notice other people who have this same problem and they have this same issue, and it's unfair to the people who have these problems similar to myself. I'm assuming that the person felt like this was a problem that they had been dealing with as well, indirectly to me. So they said it wasn't about me, but they used me as an example. It's like a oxymoron or something like that. Like, you use me as an example, but I am not who you or the situation that you're speaking about. So so then I began to play it in my head, because I realized that we had stumbled upon something, and it was something that spoke to what the person was feeling, and I wanted to address it. I wanted to address it for a few reasons. One was because if you are receiving it like that, and that is not the way that I intend to give it to you, then we're at a crossroads, right? We're at a fork in the road, and it sounds like you're going down one path and I'm going down the other. So I wanted to bridge that. I wanted to get us on the same path and on the same page. The other reason was I needed to know what was my contribution to making this person feel the way that they felt. And that was the other reason to gain clarity, because I needed to know, was it from my actions or was it from their perception? Because people can misread your actions, right? It could be the same actions, but with the wrong thought comes the wrong intention and comes the wrong outcome. So I was trying to gain clarity, and at this point in time, the person became a little flustered, because what I had been describing or asking descriptively of what I heard, they could not agree to. So then I finally said, okay, well, then maybe you need to break it down to me, because the words that you used and the way that you phrased the statement or the sentence, because at one point they said it was a sentence, then it was a statement, then it was a question, then it was just a thought. So they weren't even anchored to what the words were that was coming out of their mouth. Like it came out, and then they had to own it. And rather than owning it and literally having a heart-to-heart conversation, they decided to dismiss it. And it was in the dismissal that I got frustrated, but I wasn't yet angry. I was frustrated because I was like, here it is. I'm trying to gain some clarity, because every relationship in my life is important if you're important to me. This doesn't matter whether it's between me and my kids, my parents, my spouse, my coworkers, my neighbors. If you matter to me, which everybody should matter to some degree, but I just don't want you to have the misinterpretation or the misconception of what my intentions are, because they're always genuine. They always come from a loving place. Like, I don't sit around and plot or try to make selfish decisions that only benefit me and inconvenience others. Like, that's not the core. I've never been that type of person. So if I think that somebody who is in my space that matters to me is getting the wrong identity of me, I would like to clear that up. But some people might say, well, I don't care what you think. Yeah, if I care for you, then I care what you think. So I was getting frustrated because I could tell that the person was becoming annoyed because I was now pushing. I was pushing for clarity. I need to understand exactly what you're saying, because I can't address it if I don't understand. So when I wasn't giving clarity, then I decided to address it in the way that I saw fit. I decided to address it in a way that I understood it. And the person laughed in my face. Like, they smiled, they smirked, they chuckled, and they were like, at this point, like, I'm really not entertaining this. Is this what you're doing? You're going to go into this? I'm kind of pretty much over the conversation. I was trying to say something. It didn't come out right. I don't really care to correct it. That is it. So I'm over with it. And you can sit here like a bump on a log and try to figure it out. But I'm done, and I'm not throwing any hints or clues. And the laughter triggered me. And so I know that the person, or at least I think the person's intent for the laughter was to make it lighthearted, like, oh, it's really not that big of a deal, like, don't get worked up, because like, I'm over it. I don't really care to talk about it. I'm done with it. But the laughter triggered me, and I received it as, I'm not even serious enough about you to even fix this, to even give you clarity. I don't care if you're confused. I don't care if you misunderstood what I said. I don't care if you don't get it. I said what I said. You can take it how you want to take it, and that's that on that. And the laughter, and some of the things that were said thereafter, like, trust me, I'm not bothered. It upsets me now. It really upsets me now. And the child in me surfaced, because the adult in me plays nice. The adult in me usually can kind of see from a higher angle and say, oh, this is the trick of the enemy. This is the devil. I'm not going to let you have it, Satan. Not today. The adult in me usually can talk to the devil and the devil in you and keep it moving. The child in me cannot. Once that child has been triggered, that child wants retribution. And in that moment of feeling dismissed, which goes back to childhood, feeling I felt I don't care. It felt like I don't care enough about your feelings to make this right with you. And it also felt like, I don't want you to fix it. I just want you to feel like you effed up, and that's that. And I believe that the conversation stemmed from a previous exchange of words that I had with this person. And when they responded back, they kind of responded back with like, okay, yeah, I get it. I understand. This was what the situation is, but fine, I get it. And I thought that the situation was done. I thought that I was heard. I thought that I was understood. And I think that furthermore pissed me off, because it told me that the previous exchange of words was me being pacified. So you didn't understand me. You smoothed it over, right? Just for it to not be a confrontation, and just to not have to address it. But it told me that some feelings about what was said was still being harbored. And when I said, oh, it seems like you're still harboring some feelings about, and the person was like, oh, trust me, I'm not harboring nothing. Stuff like this. One time it would have bothered me. I'm not harboring nothing. And I didn't even get the chance to finish the harboring statement. I said, it sounds like I'm not harboring. And I was like, okay, well, what I feel like is when we had I'm not harboring, and they were just stuck on the, like, I need you to know that I didn't carry what you said. Like, you said it and it didn't even matter to me. And so when the laughter came behind that, it says, yeah, I can pretend like I care. I can pretend like I understand. But in this moment, I'm just going to let you know that, yeah, no, I'm unbothered. I really could care less. I just let you have that conversation. I just let you feel like you got it off your chest, and that was that. But it didn't make me any difference. And I had felt that way before, in other instances, but this was the first time that it was like really being said to me. When they looked me in my eye and said, trust me, I'm not harboring nothing. It was like, when somebody shows you they're who they are, believe it. this was that moment for me. And so I remember the adult in me saying in the conversation, you're being dismissed. This person's being dismissive to you, and they're not going to go any further. You're not going to get more clarity. And even though I took the time to be very explanatory as to what I feel like I was maybe being accused of, or maybe being misrepresented as, the person could have cared less. They could have cared less. It was almost like, yeah, that's why I didn't tell you exactly what I mean, because I knew that you were going to try to have an excuse, or you were going to try to have an explanation, and I'm making it so that you can't create one. You can't, because sometimes people don't want you to justify certain behaviors. They want the behavior that you have to be what it is for the reason that they think it is, and they do not want you to justify. They do not want you to explain. They do not want to hear why, or they just don't want to hear it. So the adult in me had realized that, but the child in me did not. And so the adult me said, London, get up, walk off, leave it alone, walk off. And because it was at a gridlock, right? The conversation wasn't going any further. So London got up and said, I see what this is. Because I was starting to see what this was. This was that whole like sabotage thing. You know, it's kind of like, I'm gonna put this topic in the atmosphere. And I wanted to land, but I low-key wanted to go over your head as far as in a rebuttal. So I want you to hear what I'm saying. I want to dish it to you, but I don't want you to dish it back. So I'm going to dish it to you. And then if you attempt to dish it back, then I'm going to go ahead and cut it off. And then I'm going to disown it and act like I don't know what you're talking about and why you upset and stuff like that. And it was so crazy because at some point in the conversation, the person did get upset. And I was like, why are you getting upset? Why are you getting upset? And that was also a trigger for me, because it was like you're trying to make it like it's really not this big of a thing, but you're upset, right? You're starting to use profanity. You're upset. And so I decided I'm going to leave. So when I went to remove myself, there was still some exchanges as I'm like walking off. And it felt like taunting, because it felt like, yeah, now I'm running you up out of here. Now, yeah, like, yeah, now, yeah, not now. Because I'm not going to validate how you feel. I'm not going to validate what you think. I'm just going to make you feel uncomfortable and insecure about what I said. And you just have to deal with that. And so I got to a certain space and distance. And I don't know at that point, like a lot of what was being said, because, some people are very that type of thing. And so that was what was happening all over. And then the kid in me pushed the adult aside and went off. Because the kid in me felt, I won't say bullied, but I definitely felt back into a corner. Like, I felt restricted in not being able to resolve the original question or the original problem, the original statement. And that took me to another level. And I became disrespectful. Yeah, very disrespectful. And I wasn't initially disrespectful. In fact, I think I was saying some stuff. The other person was saying some stuff. I couldn't hear nothing that the person was saying. So I'm almost certain they couldn't hear nothing that I was saying, because we had already been walking away. So now we're just yelling. And there was quite a distance between us. And then I lost it, right? Because I realized that there was I was becoming unbalanced emotionally, right? There was the rational side of me and then the irrational side of me. And you're going to have to be one or the other. You're going to have to be rational or irrational. You can't be both. This is just one of those areas you can't be great in. So like, even people say, oh, I just be nice, nasty. No, you're just nasty. You know, there's nothing nice about what you're doing. You feel like you're being nice because you could be more nasty. So because, like, you know, maybe you're being nasty at a 6 versus nasty at a 10, you feel like, well, I gave them nice nasty, so I didn't give them all the nastiness. But in this moment, the adult was losing, and the adult really should have been able to take the L. The adult in me, the healed emotional part of me, should have been able to take the L. But the parts of me that are still broken or are still under repair couldn't. And I almost felt like I could literally foam at the mouth. I was that upset. And to be honest, what I did say wasn't even what I wanted to say, right? In that moment, I just needed to say enough so that I could be quiet. Have y'all ever been in that space where you're just trying to say, you're still trying to be politically correct, you're still trying to say the right things, but stand your ground, and then you know that this thing is going to drag out because you hear this person, they're just going. And it's like, I've walked off, right? You've already dismissed me. You already have nothing to say about it. But the minute I walk off, now you're saying a whole lot. One is because you want to draw me back in, right? You now realize I've hit a weak spot. I've hit a sore spot. And instead of saying, oh, she's walking off because, how they say, if it's too hot, get out the kitchen. She's dismissing herself. She's leaving. No, I'm going to draw her back in because now I've found a sensitive spot and I am going to rub it raw. That is, to me, the intentions of this person at this moment, because I've already left. I'm leaving. So why are you now saying more now as I'm leaving than you did when I was in your face? That's taunting. That's saying, oh, I'm actually winning. I'm winning this. I'm breaking her. And I'm not going to stop until she's completely broken. So if that means yelling while she's, 15, 20 feet away, I'm going to do that. I want to see her leave wounded. And it's like I turned around and was not going to go down without a fight. I wasn't going to be the only person wounded. And so while my heart was wounded, I felt like I was dealing with somebody who was being heartless in the moment. So there was nothing that I could say to wound their heart, but I could definitely wound their ego. I could definitely disrespect them and their pride. And so that's what I did. And what was so crazy is when the words left my mouth, what I should have felt was no. What I felt was yes. Yes. Give more of that. I shouted probably as loud as I could. And as I was saying the things that I was saying, there was still a little bit of restraint from the adult in me that said, but don't say this. Don't say this. Because to say this, not only do you need to mean it, but you need to be done. You just need to be done. I feel like it's almost like spitting on somebody or spitting in their face. So, but once I said what I did say, I was done. It was almost like somebody came. I ain't going to say the Holy Spirit, because the Holy Spirit was not dwelling in me. Or if it was dwelling in me at that time, it was off to the side like, oh my gosh, what has happened? We are so far past this behavior. What has happened? But my mouth just closed. And I've had instances like that before, in arguments where I'm at 1,000 and then it just, whoop, I've said what I needed to say. And sometimes it's not even I said what I needed to say to be heard. I just needed to get it off my chest. And so I got quiet. I said nothing else. And then the person came to me. Like I had went elsewhere and the person came to where I was. And I'm assuming they wanted to pursue this now. Like, oh, I got you down. Nah, no, don't run. Don't run. Come on. Come on. No, don't run and hide. I got you now, sis. Where you going? Where you going? And thankfully I was in a space where there was a barricade between me and this person. Because the old me would have been like, oh, you came to see me. How you saying I didn't send for you? Oh, you came. Oh, I'm going to meet you at the door. But I didn't. The adult in me had regained control, told the child in me, go sit down. Enough is enough. You've had your temper tantrum. It's over. Leave it alone. And it was so crazy because when I tell you the old me would have came out swinging, like, oh, you came to see me? Oh, I'm going to see you. We going to see each other. I didn't even have the desire to do that. I didn't. It was just like, yeah, now you come to me and you come to me, however, for whatever. And I don't care to see you. I don't care to go toe to toe with you. I don't care to do this, because when I was trying to gain clarity and understanding so that I could address the situation properly, you didn't afford me that. So for you to now come to me, what could you be coming to me with? Because at this moment, there's nothing that's gonna to right this wrong. There's nothing that's gonna make this situation right. But I think at that point that person had felt the same disrespect that I felt, and now they wanted to have the last word. And you can over there, you can have the last word. You had the last word when I said what I said. That was less than me. When I acted out of character, when I showed my ass, when I became disrespectful to a point where it was unrecognizable to me. Because don't get me wrong now, these attributes are in us. We decide whether they represent us. And so when I let that behavior represent me, I couldn't even continue a conversation or an argument. I had already become somebody I would not, on my worst day, choose to be. So I realized that I had relinquished power to the enemy. And I think I was really pissed about that. I was really like, when I play it again, if I could have just walked off, because I think the results would have been the same. When the enemy is behind your triggers, when the enemy is able to use a vessel, use someone to get at your triggers, then the person is going to do what the enemy put them on assignment to do. It is up to you to figure out how you are going to respond to that. And because this had been a new trigger, or I won't say a new trigger, because the trigger came differently, right? Because the what triggered me is what triggers me, but the avenue in which it came from was a totally different direction that I had than I had experienced before. I was unprepared, and I wish in that moment when I was feeling disrespected and laughed at and dismissed, I wish that in that moment I said, "You're being triggered, be quiet." I wish I was able to do that in that very moment. I wish that, first of all, I wish that I saw it coming. Because even though I didn't see it coming, I felt it arriving, and I should have left then. But to be honest, to be perfectly honest, the issue wasn't even what was happening in the moment. It was what that moment was going to cause for the future. That was where I think my anxiety came from. Because I became anxious, like, okay, so since this is ending the way that it's ending, this is going to position us differently moving forward. And I was more upset about the outcome of what was happening than what was actually happening. Because I was big enough and bad enough to handle what was happening. But I knew that it was going to change the trajectory, of where I wanted to go. And I was upset about that because we were so far into the confusion that it almost seemed impossible to walk away unhinged. It almost seemed impossible to walk away light and airy and, okay, all right, well, I see where you're coming from. Well, no, that's not what it is. Like, it just, we weren't there. And for as far into it as we were, there was no way to get there. And I was upset about that. I was upset that I was not going to be able to get a great outcome. Because with all my relationships, I want them to end with positive outcomes, positive results, positive conversations, words of affirmation, love, hugs, kisses, whatever. That's ultimately what I want all of my interactions to be. And so this conversation, I think that it would have ended better had the person been willing to own what they were actually saying and allow me to address what they were saying. But what happened is that I believe in that moment, them owning what they were saying would have justified what I had already spoken about and called them out about before. So somewhere in that conversation, they realized, oh, if I say yes, that's what I mean, then that is going to explain my behavior. And that is going to tell her that it is what she thought. Or I do what she thinks. And I can't have her be right in this moment. So I'm not going to correct her, because then I would have to come up creatively with another perspective of what I was saying. But I can't really condemn her because I ain't owning it, right? So she ain't right or wrong. It's just nothing. And that's where they left it. So what have I learned? And this just happened, y'all. Like this, when I tell you this is super fresh, this just happened. What have I learned? I've learned that even in the breakdown, there's a breakthrough. And I don't get to respond as a child and be respected as an adult. Now, I mean, children are respected as well, but y'all know what I mean. I don't get to respond as a child and be respected as an adult. You just don't. You respond as a child, then you will be received as a child. You respond as an adult, you will be respected as an adult. And I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed in myself because I knew immediately thereafter that I had violated. And I'm not disappointed. Okay, but I'm disappointed that I had violated. And I'm not smiling. I'm just having an aha as I speak with y'all. But I was disappointed that it felt good. That's what it was. I was disappointed that being disrespectful felt good in that moment. It felt necessary. It felt warranted. It felt good. And I almost felt like, and I'd do it again. I had that type of feeling about it. And so I was disappointed because I want to feel bad when I do bad. I want to feel wrong when I do wrong. And there's just no way to justify it. You know what I mean? Like I have my reasonings why I did it. It does not justify the behavior, the reaction that I gave it. And I don't want to be apologetic for it, but I should. And I know that I need to, and I will. But I didn't want to apologize from my head and not my heart. So I'm waiting for my heart to catch up with my head, because my head knows it's the right thing to do. My heart is still like kind of on the fence about it. But as I sit here and I talk with y'all, my heart isn't on the fence, because even in my hearts, if that's a thing, it does feel bad. It feels bad to be that person. It feels bad to be out of control. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good to relinquish your power over to someone else. It doesn't feel good to react just as negatively as the experience that you're having. So it's a L. That was a loss. Like, I lost a little bit of me in that situation. I lost the me that I had built or am building. And I took a few steps back with that one. I really did. I really did. But again, like, healing is a journey, right? I don't know that we ever arrive. To arrive would make us perfect. And we all know that we're incapable of being perfect. So we just have to continue on the journey. So apologizing, though, would make me feel healed. It to me, the little girl doesn't win when I apologize. The little girl doesn't lose when I apologize. She actually wins. She wins because she gets it off her chest. But she takes responsibility for the fact that she did not do it the right way. And so I don't want to say by any means necessary, but I do want to be able to right my wrong and move on. And in the future, because for me, this just became an epiphany. Like, I had an aha in that conversation. Not an aha that I didn't know, but an aha of confirmation that it was what I thought. And it's now knowledge. It's new confirmed information. Maybe not new information, but it's definitely confirmation. And now I know it. And now I just move accordingly. That's the only thing left to do. You just have to move accordingly. I'm not here to change people's I scratch that. I am here to change people's perspectives and people's thought process. I am here to evoke change and new direction and an upright posture. I am here to do that. And one, it's going to take leading by example. but it's also going to take vulnerability in saying, I was wrong. And had I had the experience of that conversation prior, I would have addressed it differently. But it was the first time that it was being tackled from that angle, and it hurt. It hurt really, really bad, because this is going to sound a little far-fetched, but when I think about murder, and I think about the suspect, and I think about all the evidence that proves that they committed that murder, but because it's, circumstantial, they don't get convicted. They get to walk away. That's what it felt like in that moment. It felt like the assailant was getting away. And they knew that as long as they denied the evidence that was there, they couldn't be convicted. And I did not want to accept the not guilty plea, because in my heart they were guilty. But what I say, you don't get to be the judge or the jury. So it was definitely a lesson learned. It was a phenomenal breakthrough for me this morning, because it happened maybe about 2 days ago. Yeah, about 2 days ago. So it was a phenomenal breakthrough for me this morning, because sometimes just sitting in the fact that, I shouldn't have done that, I should have done differently, it's just not enough. I really had to dig deep, and I had to see it for what it was worth. I had to see the lesson that was learned, and I guarantee you, the next time I'm going to pass the test, I'm going to move accordingly. Like, I love these breakthroughs, but if I can have them without the breakdown, Lord, that's a blessing in itself. But I apologize for this impromptu episode. I just had to get it out. I hope y'all can relate. I hope that y'all are passing y'all tests, that y'all are coming to breakthroughs, hopefully not by breakdowns, but if you are breaking down, that you are breaking through. So, yeah, I learned a lot about myself the moments afterwards, even when I didn't rise up to the confrontation, when I felt like I was being challenged. I learned that the adult in me has way more control than the child in me. And it's almost like, when you hold like that kid's hand and you got it, you're like, as soon as you step out the door, hold my hand, and you don't play with it. Like, you hold their hand and you guide them and they follow. And then there's that 1 second they break off into traffic, like they run across the street or they snatch away. That's what had happened to me. Like, the child just got away, and I was able to regroup. I was able to go get her and say, no. Because now this could really get worse, and we're not going to do that. The child has experienced enough trauma. And so we have to realize that when the child in us is reacting, what we're doing in that environment is creating more toxicity. We're creating more trauma, because now that child is going to have to deal with the repercussions of those actions. And the adult is there to kind of pick up the pieces, but to not over-traumatize the child in ourselves, again, the adult has to come in, right? Because had I met that confrontation and with wrath, there could have been a very negative outcome, and then the child would have fallen victim to that. And so I think in the previous episode, I had talked about the confrontation of neighbors. And if you put your paws on them or they put their paws on you, you can end up in the back of a police car. This is how it starts. Now, the conversation that I had wouldn't have ended up with the police and all that stuff. It wasn't to that magnitude, but I'm just saying, like, that's how it builds. That's how it builds. And if we don't gain control of it, the child will get us in trouble every time. So I'm not going to go any further. This is probably the longest episode I've had. The next episode won't be this long, I promise you. I just really just need to get it out. I just really needed to talk to you guys, and just live in the moment. I thank y'all so much for listening, for allowing me again into your home for another episode of the Hardened and Healed Podcast. I'm going to go let you get back to your day to day. I love you guys so much. And as always, until next time. Bye, loves. Now, if you enjoyed this episode of the Hardened Healed Podcast, go ahead and subscribe, share with a friend, and turn on your notification button so that you don't miss an episode.